Alrighty, so the contingency approach is a really interesting one to look at. It's quite simple, so this video is going to be quite short and quick. And the syllabus dot point that we're looking at is this is the third management approach, contingency, and it's all about adapting to changing circumstances. So what is actually contingency management? It's all about the need for flexibility and adapting your management practices to suit the changing circumstances. So essentially, think of a contingency plan. When people use the phrase using a contingency plan, it's all about having a backup plan if something goes wrong. So you have a set plan, but then something external or internal affects your plan, and so you need to come up with something different. And especially in the business environment, managers need to be able to adapt to changing circumstances. Just think of coronavirus and the whole impact it's had on businesses. Managers have had to be contingent and have contingency plans and be flexible and adapt. And so the actual management process associated with it is there's not one key characteristic. Essentially, what the manager does is they borrow and blend a range of management approaches to meet the demands of the different business solutions. So there might be, for example, something like COVID-19, that because things were changing so much, there wasn't enough time to sit there and take all of your employees' opinions in the decision-making process. And so in that situation, an autocratic management style had to be adapted, and the manager just had to make the decision themselves, and it had to flow through the hierarchy of the business. Whereas in other times of the year, maybe when things are more relaxed, that particular manager could have a behavioral management approach. So it's all about trying to blend your different management approaches based on the particular circumstance or situation that you find yourself in. The reason for this, what are the strengths and weaknesses associated with this particular management approach? Well, obviously the strength is that it focuses on flexibility, vision, and adaptation. So the fact that you can respond quickly and adapt to different scenarios. If you have fast responses to changes, it means that your business can keep its competitive advantage. So going along with that example of COVID-19, for example, let's look at a fitness studio. Or like a gym or something like that. So if the manager decided and made the decision, right, the gym's closing, we're running all our classes online, if they were able to really quickly make that decision, they now have a competitive advantage because they're one of the first people or one of the first businesses that started up online training, and they could have got a significant amount of people. Whereas if 3 weeks later another business decided to do the same thing, in that time they could have lost customers. And it's a really good strength to view change as an opportunity rather than a threat. Change does not have to be a bad thing. So for example, when we're looking now at how we're doing remote learning, this change is an opportunity. I've seen it as an opportunity to create all these great videos, which I can now use next year or the years after that. Or I can now create all these online resources that I can use again and again, something that I didn't have time for before, and I used to just use it as a worksheet, or it'd be something that we just did informally. So by using that as an opportunity rather than a threat, that positive outlook can really help you to take advantage of the opportunity and do well as a business. Now, the weaknesses that are associated with it is that if you have contingency plans and different approaches to different things, then it could mean that your alternative plans might never be needed, and any resources that you've invested into that then are wasted. It also relies on the strength of your management skills in solving complex problems. So because you're so flexible and adaptable, you really are strongly relying on management skills. So if your manager has a bad day or an off day, it could really be detrimental to the business. Whereas if there's systems in place then and processes that are usually followed, then that would mean that there's less risk associated with it. And also you have to take into account the fact that employees and management have to be able to cope with the change. So if you're 1 second a really autocratic dictatorship method, and then all of a sudden then you're a really good and motivating leader, that sort of change is something that your employees and your management need to be able to cope with and need to be able to handle.